Hello and welcome to the Art of Fundraising. This is Paul Sheldon, the founder of Dreamosophy, and we're going to be investing a few hours together over the next few days. Each day we'll have about 50 minutes together, and then we will progress to the VIP session for the people who choose to join the VIP session for an extra hour of less structured conversations with me and whoever has that extra time. We are recording because there are quite a few people who weren't able to attend on time. And I'd like to begin today by inviting each of you to give us maybe the 1 or 2 minute version of who you are, what your interest in fundraising is, and what is your favorite flower?
I'll start.
Thanks, Arlene.
I'm going to start with my favorite flower. My favorite flower is calla lily, and I don't know why. I just always thought it was very pretty, and they're different. And so my first set of china has calla lilies on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I love calla lily. It's a great flower to use in weddings and stuff. So I love it. So I'm Arlene Pryce, mortgage broker, branch manager at Team USA Mortgage. Been originating loans for over 27 years, helping people get into homes, educating them. I also sit on the board with the North Shore Realtors Association, which is a spinoff of Dearborn. And I also sit on the board with Women Council of Realtors Association. And I bring those two associations up because I am the Ways and Means chairperson. And what that means is that I have to go out and ask for money. I also started a nonprofit called Share Your Souls, where I started to send money in barrels of gently used shoes and clothes to Haiti. So I started that nonprofit. So I'm always looking for new ways on how to ask for a sponsorship, because that's my job right now, is to ask for money.
I think that's one of the first things you and I did together, Arlene, was you hit me up for $100 to send to Haiti.
So I want to learn a tactful way and be able to have an ROI when I'm asking for money for people.
We are definitely going to cover that. That'll be our topic for Wednesday.
Okay.
Session 3.
I'm Betsy Bishop, and I've just retired after 47 years of public education as a theater teacher, and I had a great time. But I'm interested now in fundraising for, well, different things. I love Ukraine benefit. That was great. But I'm interested in a dance program in our district. We have no dance classes at all, and I think it would be a great alternative for PE for a lot of kids. And so I'm interested in building that little by little. I don't know how fast I can do it, but I'd like to fundraise for that, hire dance teachers to go into the public schools and do that for kids. So,
And your favorite flower?
And my favorite flower is the rose because of the symbolism of the thorns. And you have to have the thorns in order to have the blossoms. So I like that because that's a symbol for a lot of things: birth, theater, everything. So.
Well, I'll go next because I have seen Betsy Bishop and her theater when she was the I guess Ashland High School, right? The Ashland High School theater instructor, whatever your title was. Congratulations on retiring. The one that my husband and I loved the most was we didn't see that many. The Drowsy Chaperone. Oh my goodness, that was such a great production. Oh my goodness. So congratulations again. My favorite flower is, I'll give you the Latin name first because I like to say it. It's Grindelia nana, which is also known as Idaho gumweed, which is a native, and weed is in the name correctly. It will spread well, but it is very, very beloved by our small native bees here in Southern Oregon, and also the small butterflies. And then the seeds are very nutritious for our birds in the fall and the winter. And it's beautiful, bright yellow flowers. And I personally think that should be what's in our ditches instead of the non-native oxeye daisies and so forth. Okay, so sorry, we're dealing with smoke and my voice isn't doing really well today. So I am volunteer president and chair of the board of Pollinator Project Rogue Valley, a small growing nonprofit in Southern Oregon. We're based out of Phoenix, and our mission is to share with people the importance of our native pollinators, not the honeybees so much, and our native plants. I just gave you a quickie on one of them and how important they are for our local ecosystem and also our food systems. So I'm needing to raise money so that we can actually hire people and maybe have a bigger space someday. Lots of dreams. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristina.
I'll go next. My name is Kara. I worked for the city of Boulder, Colorado for 29 years, retired a couple of years ago, and I'm working part-time still for the city doing some contract work. And one of the big projects that I'm working on is a kind of an advanced maker space or a reuse focused innovation hub. I coordinated the city's recycling and composting programs for 28 years when I did that. And so this is kind of building on that. So that's the city owns a piece of property that has 2 nonprofits leasing 8 of the 10 acres now. There's 2 additional acres that's currently technically unprogrammed, and that's where we would like to make this innovation hub happen, a Boulder kind of innovation garage, but there's no money to build it, so that's my big project. And my favorite flower is, you know, I went to school in Wisconsin, and I just fell in love with the purples and greens of the prairie. So anything that blooms purple on a green prairie is my favorite. Could be phlox, could be cosmos, could be anything. The purple and green together on the prairie is my favorite flower.
Fun hearing you talk about composting in Boulder. The compost system at the Boulder County Jail is one of my favorites in the country. And you're talking about not having enough money. It reminded me conversation I had with Dan Pacholke, who was the Secretary of Corrections for the state of Washington, and he implemented composting throughout Washington's state prisons. And I said, Dan, how did you get the money to get all these compost systems going? He said, oh, we're way beyond doing more with less. We do everything with nothing.
That's, I think, everyone's bottom line. That's probably on this call. So appreciate that.
Thanks for keeping
I'll jump in. I'm Snow Thorner. You hear me okay? Okay, good. Yeah, I'm Snow Thorner. I am a couple of stone throws from Ashland, Oregon, across the border. I just opened a social justice gallery in the historic small town of Montague, California. So we operate at the crossroads between trauma healing and the curative powers of art, fine art, actually. We're off to a brilliant start. And my favorite flower would be a passion flower. I love the exotic wildness of it. And I love being around passionate people.
I used to call them helicopter flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I'll jump in, Paul. Good to see you.
Hey, bud, good to see you too.
It's been, what, 35 years?
No, 15.
So you know that we started out together with the WinStar Foundation. I think that's when I first met you.
That was 35 years ago.
Yeah, John Denver's nonprofit organization. And just to play off your comment, we had an advisor on our board who used to say, you know, you guys at WinStar, you always come up with these great ideas, fantastic initiatives. Something seems to be missing. Could it be the cash? So anyway, I am a founder of the Deep Nature Journeys and the Way of Nature, on the advisory board of a few organizations, but one is the Common Foundation. And if you'll pardon the expression, their motto is "Do shit that matters." So that's always appropriate for these chaotic times. And my reason for being here is that I, along with quite a extended team, are working to raise sufficient funding to buy a 48-acre site in Crestone, Colorado, that was originally designated for a satellite campus for Naropa University. And they defaulted because they sat on it for 15 years and they weren't able to do anything. So basically, our purpose is to have an anchoring for John Milton's legacy with the Way of Nature and create the Way of Nature Academy. And that will be a demonstration of autonomous hermitage cottages that are state-of-the-art, demonstrating zero impact net gain on the environment for hermitage retreat cottages, to then encourage the CEO and C-suite executives to immerse themselves in a rite of passage in wilderness with no reading, no writing, no fire, no distractions for multiple days, so they can sit with their monkey mind and
No devices?
Excuse me?
No devices?
No mobile devices. That's right. I have a quick aside, if you'll pardon my time here. I guided a group of graduate students at the University of Colorado on just one afternoon of nature sensing experiences in one of the Boulder County open spaces. I live in Louisville, right next to Boulder. And the parents of these graduate students called the chancellor of the university to complain that we were abusing their children by requiring them to leave their mobile devices in the classroom for simply one afternoon. That's how profoundly disconnected we are from the natural world. It's beyond any comprehension that's reasonable. So anyway, I'll quit with that. And it's great to see you, and thanks for putting all this together.
And your favorite
Oh,
flower?
my favorite flower, I have so many, but I'll select the lotus for this purpose because they arise from the muck, and they symbolize and represent liberation and enlightenment.
We're
I'm
down
complete.
to Sue, Robert, and Neil.
Alrighty, guys. Robert here. You guys could call me Bobby. I'm currently a loan officer, figuring out how to be intentional with my outreach with realtors to develop those relationships so I could serve underserved communities. I'm also the vice chair of our community services department here in the city of Bell. And we act as an advisory board for the public. And I like to see my role as getting the community involved in the activities that the city hosts. And it's been like in my heart, and I've been thinking of possibly starting a nonprofit here in the community to teach financial literacy, because that's definitely something I wish, that's what's taught in school, or something that people were more educated about in general. Because the more I talk to people about real estate, the more I realize that, people feel like it's impossible, that there's, that they need 20% down, that, they're just going to be renters for their whole life. And, I'm committed to changing that narrative. So that's what brings me here today about fundraising, to see, how I could possibly fund these adventures of mine. And my favorite flower are the ones that I give to my girlfriend. She definitely loves when I give her some. I think I have a picture I could show you guys real quick of the ones I got her yesterday. Oh, let me see if I could remove the blur real quick.
Oh, nice.
Lovely. Beautiful.
And personally, I like the tulip, just the basicness of it. I like the pink one is my favorite. I like just pastel colors overall. And I'm complete.
And I like the beard.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I feel like as I age, it'll probably become fuller, but I work with what I got, you know.
Well, one of my favorite sayings is real men have beards. The rest are trying to pretend that they're still young.
23.
Bobby, Zillow announced, I think yesterday, that they're going with a 1% down payment.
Okay. Yeah, there's tons of programs out there. I'm sure Arlene knows as well. We just need to educate. I think that's my calling, is to educate everyone, anyone and everyone that's willing to listen.
Thanks, Bobby.
Hey everyone, my name is Sue and I'm in St. Louis, Missouri. I met Paul through MITT, which was amazing, and I just love Paul, so that's why I'm here. I'm a caregiver. I do functional health reports from people's blood work, and I'm a longtime phlebotomist. Was called a blood whisperer back home. And my first name is Suzanne, which means lily of the valley. So that's my favorite flower, and I just love how delicate it is, and how love the beautiful scent of the flowers and the brightness of the green. So that's me.
Thanks, Sue.
I could go. Can you hear me all right?
Hi, Neil.
Hi. I'm in Dallas, Texas. And I should say at the outset, I'm working part-time. I'm semi-retired. So I will be, this day and Friday, Mondays and Fridays, the only day I'm off. So I won't be able to be on the call on the other days. But I met Paul. I had an online business that really wasn't successful. It was related to personal growth. And I don't know if Paul knows this. I don't think he does. I actually gave it up temporarily. And I've been in a program that Landmark gives. Some of you may know what that organization is, called the Team Management and Leadership Program. And from that, I've created a project about prison reform, because I was incarcerated when I was much, much younger. And right now, I'm not thinking about raising funds, but I love Paul. I was on another course, Dreamosophy, and I wanted to support and see what he's up to. Yeah, because I have it that it's miraculous that one person, so I have a group, we have about 12 people, we meet twice a month on Zoom, and one person out of the blue just decided to spend, I'm not sure how much, but it's close to $10,000 to buy mattresses for people in a halfway house for their, because one guy said the mattresses suck. So I'm not in a place yet where I see the need. I haven't created a 501c3 or anything from this group. I'm just still listening to hear what is our mission. We have people from at least 6, 7 different states, but it is around prison reform as I see it. So that's it about me. And my favorite flower, I was thinking to pick something that I knew the name of, but there is a flower that I like that I don't know the name of. It has a few long green stems, and it has flowers in very bright colors. And I'll have to look it up. I don't want to mess with the phone. It's a common name. It was in the Northeast where I came from. But I apologize. I don't know the name of it. I can name a few others, but it was for its beauty. It was just beautiful and singular. So that's what I got. Thank you.
You can email it to me and I'll share with the group.
Okay.
Angelica, we're talking about who you are, where you're calling in from, your interest in fundraising, and your favorite flower. And we're down to you. You're the last one to introduce yourself.
Hello, sorry for my tardiness. I had trouble with Zoom getting on. I had to update something. So my name is Angelica Zaragoza, and I am tuning in from Dallas, Texas. I am currently Senior Program Director of Girls Embracing Mothers but also starting up my own 501c3, going to be called Janie's Angels. So interesting I've got all the ins and outs of how to run it. I just haven't been, have any experience in fundraising. So I thought I'd jump on and see what I can learn. Always open to new learning. My favorite flower is going to be probably tulips.
Lovely. Well, thank you all. I'm moved almost to tears at the amazing concerns that you have. My life is really about helping people realize their heartfelt, worthwhile dreams for the future. And that's what each of you is doing in your own way. This week, we're going to talk about a different approach to fundraising. Everyone thinks, oh, fundraising is about asking people for money. And so many people think, oh, I don't want to have to ask people for money. I hate fundraising. And so we're going to see if we can get past that there to where you recognize that what you care about is worth sharing, and that everyone has things that they really care about. Tracy Gary calls them people's honored obligations. And that's what fundraising is all about, is finding what people care about and giving them an opportunity to show that. I'd like to share a little bit about me here. I'm going to share my screen for just a little while so that we can talk about my history in fundraising, because it's been a long journey. I started fundraising in 1970, if you can believe it. My first fundraising job, I worked with the Tree People, which was an organization in Los Angeles dedicated to helping people plant trees and learn about trees as a symbol of caring for each other. And it was interesting at the time, smog was killing children, but people didn't seem to be concerned about the fact that the smog was killing children. But when we told them that the smog was killing the forests, then they got all concerned about saving the forests from the smog. So my very first fundraising job was going to hardware stores and food markets to get tools and food to support tree planting crews up in the mountains above Los Angeles. Tree People are still there. 50 years later, we started a park in Los Angeles. It's called Coldwater Canyon Park. And the little membership program that I created for the Tree People now raises about $2 million a year for them. Fast forward 50 years, one of my favorite projects in Oakland, California is planting justice. Grow food, grow jobs, grow community is their motto. And they recently received their first $5 million pledge, which we'll talk about a little bit later, about how relationships precede fundraising. Bud mentioned WinStar Foundation in Old Snow, Mass. I spent a few years working with John Denver to raise money for that. We raised some money, but not enough money, as Bud mentioned, and WinStar no longer exists, alas. But along the way, about 15 years ago, I got involved in prison reform. I wrote a book for the National Institute of Justice, and I advise another group now called Social Profit Corrections that is working to end private prisons and to transform the private prison industry so that people can use the time of incarceration to dream up a better life. And the money that used to go to profit for private profit prisons can be devoted to reducing recidivism and help people have lives that work. They just got their first $2 million pledge. And we'll talk about that also. Another one of my favorite groups over the last 15 years that I've worked with is the Laura X Institute, which was started to commemorate the lifelong career of Laura X, who's now 82. She's the woman who accomplished the criminalization of spousal and date rape. When she started in 1969, in 46 states in the Union, it was legal for husbands to rape their wives. Husbands were specifically exempted from the definition of rape, and social companions were exempted in 13 states. And she went state by state by state over 25 years. and eliminated those exemptions and kept records. So I've been involved with her over the last 10 years to try to preserve her legacy. We have her papers now scheduled, scattered across 8 different institutions around the country: Harvard, the New York Historical Society, University of Houston, University of Illinois. Each institution has a different component of the archives of her work. And we raised about $4 million for that along the way. So that's what we're going to be talking about this week, is how do we make it easy to raise large amounts of money? And the approach that we're going to talk about is called the 7 questions. I learned about the 7 questions from Irving R, who wrote the book, The Art of Fundraising. He literally wrote the book on fundraising. And his book was quite amazing. Reader's Digest, some of you may remember the little magazine Reader's Digest that used to condense books each month. And he sent his book into them to be reviewed, and they sent it back to him. They said, we can't do a Reader's Digest version of your book because everything in it is so essential and we can't reduce it at all. And the book is still current today. A lot of the examples and the language are out of date, but the basic approach to fundraising is what I have developed over the last 50 years as the Dreamosophy approach. Today's theme is a fundamental shift. People talk about fundamental shifts that happen in our understanding of life. For example, germs. 150 years ago, people didn't know about germs. But as germs entered the public awareness, people learned that surgeons have to wash their hands. And people learned that you can get sick not by unrequited love, but by being exposed to someone who has a disease. And we've just been through a global pandemic that has heightened global awareness about hygiene and sanitation and that sort of thing. So this is an example of a fundamental shift where once you understand the nature of germs, you don't think about shaking hands or touching banisters in the same way ever again. We want you to have that kind of a fundamental shift about fundraising. And the shift is this, and I'm going to give it to you straight up. It's one of those simple things that you'll go, oh yeah, I already knew that. Yes, you already knew it, but I'm inviting you to consider shifting the way you think about fundraising. And the shift is this: be interested, not interesting. I'll say it again. Be interested, not interesting. And the 7 questions approach is designed to help you get interested in what people care about. We'll talk more about this tomorrow, but the idea is that these 7 questions that I'm going to share with you in a workbook format, which will be available on Wednesday, they're like topics or archways or doorways or gateways into the Garden of Dreams. These are not, it's not like an interview. I'm not going to invite you to do a survey of people and ask them these 7 questions and write down their answers and tabulate and do data analysis. No, the idea is for you to shift from being interesting to being interested. And I don't mean to say that the cause that you're working on is not interesting. Each of you is working on something really powerful. And yet, the people you're going to be approaching for money also have things that they're interested in. And so one of the truisms here is that if what you're raising money for was the key to raising money, there would be no more starving children in the world. If what you were raising money for was the critical element in how to raise money successfully, we would have no more war. Racism, poverty, all these things that people are concerned about would disappear. Because if it was enough just to say, I care about this cause, and then money would come at you, all these things wouldn't be problems anymore. So what's the missing element? The missing element is people often don't recognize that the people from whom they're soliciting money already have honored obligations. They already know what they care about. And so the question is what you're offering what they care about? How do you find that out? You ask, not by asking for money. You ask them what they care about. And we'll get into that more deeply tomorrow. But that was my primary opening invitation to you, was for you to begin to consider that being interested is more powerful in fundraising than being interesting. So I'd like to hear from you what this provokes in you. When I talk about being interested, not being interesting as the key to fundraising, what's the conversation in your head? And I'll stop my share here for a minute so that we can just talk about this a little bit. What does this provoke in you?
For me, I would say be interested in being genuinely interested in what the person is doing, how it got started, how it came about, what's the benefits of it, not just raising money, but say, for instance, like with Haiti, I was genuinely interested in the well-being of those children, what happened after the earthquake, how they were surviving, you know, the germs they got, you know, how they were living, what are they eating. So I'm genuinely interested and concerned about you yourself versus just being interested in the project itself, but I'm genuinely interested in the well-being of that particular person or situation.
And the sincerity of your concern is infectious. It cost me $100 out of the gate.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I wouldn't say that Paul wasn't interested, but I was so interested, and he saw my interest and my compassion that he gave, and I'm sure he's compassionate about it as well, but I was so compassionate about it that I was able to say, I really need you to help me help them.
Yeah. Thanks, Arlene.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else?
I'll share for a second, Paul. So it reminded me of the Art of Convening course through the Center for Purposeful Leadership out of the Twin Cities, Minnesota. And I was in a cohort group, and a woman, I made a comment about Trump. And then afterwards, she wrote an email and said in honesty to herself, she had to let me know that she was a significant Trump supporter. And I thought to myself, how in the world can this woman possibly be a Trump supporter? And the core principle of the Art of Convening is to enter into every single engagement, especially with people who are on the opposite end of a spectrum, with genuine and authentic curiosity. And so I think the being interested, another way of articulating that is to remind yourself to just be intensely curious of what motivates and what inspires other people.
Thanks, bud.
Well, I wanted to ask a question about the interested. I was thinking that you were saying that, like, if I'm trying to get $100 out of Paul, then I should be interested in Paul so that he knows I'm interested in him and that he can help me by giving me $100. But Arlene was referencing that she's interested in the project she's trying to serve. And so you're interested in Haiti, and therefore you're wanting to bring Paul in. So it's a different side of the same coin. And so I wanted to get a clarification from Paul. Do you mean both, or do you mean one or the other, or do you see what I'm asking?
I do see what you're asking, and the answer is yes. And what I mean by that is, in the same sense that Arlene's interest is infectious, the quality of being interested begins with you and your own life. You, Kristina, are just profoundly interested in pollinators. And nobody in the Valley knows why, but you're the pollinator woman. And and you do it because you care. That generalizes then to being interested in what I'm doing, or what Betsy's doing, or what Snow is doing, because you have that quality of being interested. You're not neglecting yourself. You're not in it for the money. You're not doing it because somebody's paying you to go out and ask for money. You're doing it because you're interested. And when you bring that emphasis, that heart to your conversations with people, they can feel that. It's a privilege. And I'll descend to a little story here. I realized long after I graduated from college that the best teachers that I had, the ones that I really learned the most from, were the ones who were interested in me. Now, that's partly because I'm a healthy narcissist, but really, I went through my entire education thinking that I was interesting. I was really bright. I could talk. I could learn. I participated. If a teacher asked for questions, my hand was the first one that went up. And so I thought I was so interesting that all my teachers loved me. And it wasn't until after I got out of school and looked back at some of those great teachers that I was privileged to learn with, that they brought that quality to all their students. And Betsy can tell you about this. You know, they were as interested in the student who appeared on the surface to be adult, who couldn't sing and couldn't dance and wasn't learning, as they were in me, who was an honor student in almost everything. It wasn't because I was interesting, and I was, and I am, but it was because those great teachers had that capacity to invest in others, their sense of, I'm interested in your learning process. Tell me more about what you care about. And they were learning beside me. They were learning behind me. They were not sage on the stage up in the front writing on the chalkboard. They were people who really cared about algebra, and who really cared about drama, and who really cared about early childhood education. And they shared that passion in ways that turned me free to learn. So I know that's kind of a long answer to your question, Kristina, but it's a really insightful question, because that quality of being interested doesn't matter where you're focusing that searchlight. And it really feels perceivable when you focus that on me and what I care about.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have a match, then it's a match made in heaven.
Yes. I always love talking to you, Paul, as you know. So yes, that was helpful, because it makes it like round instead of one way.
Right. And you know, it's an old axiom that you can't sell something that you don't believe in. It's actually not true, but it's much more effective in the long term if you're interested not just in the other person, but in what you're doing as well. It's a generalizable quality.
Thank you.
Someone else? I'm going to tell a little story here, and Snow and Kristina have heard this story, and so I apologize for repeating, but one of my favorite incidents in fundraising was when I negotiated the first $1 million gift for Planting Justice. We were running a street canvass, like Greenpeace and the Hare Krishnas in the airports. You know, we had formerly incarcerated people out on the street with clipboards and little notebooks about planting justice, just stopping people on the street and saying, hey, I'd like you to become a sustainer of planting justice. And they wanted to tell their story to people. And the idea was to stop people, tell your story, and invite them to support planting justice. And they stopped this, one of our canvassers, Patrick, stopped a man coming out of a health food store in El Cerrito, California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And the guy wouldn't stop walking. He was on his way from the health food store to his car, and he said, I don't have time to talk. It's not a good time for me. I'm on my way to an appointment. And Patrick walked with him and said, I think this is really worth your time. I'd love to tell you about this. And the guy said, no, I don't have time. I have to go. And Patrick walked with him and said, well, who are you? What are you going to? And he said, I'm going to a meeting at my foundation. And as he got in his car, he gave Patrick his card and said, here's my card, have somebody call me, and drove away. Patrick looked at his card and it said, Executive Director, Thomas J. Long Foundation. And he got all excited. Oh my gosh, this guy's an executive director of a foundation. And he called me up and he sent me a cell phone photo of the card. And he said, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, well, you're not going to be able to finish this conversation, obviously, because he drove off, but I'm going to follow up with him with our 7 questions approach because I want to learn more about this guy. Now, foundations are pretty interesting because you can find out a lot about them by doing research. People who give a lot of money nowadays with the internet, you can learn a lot about them before you ever engage in a conversation with them. But I couldn't learn a lot about this guy. All I could learn was his foundation had $90 million and that they were concerned about hunger. And that was good. So I called him up while I was driving to Portland from Ashland, and going through the mountains of Southern Oregon is an on again, off again conversation. We got disconnected 5 times in the course of this conversation. And every time we got disconnected, he called me back because I called him up to find out who he was and what he was interested in. And that's the first of the 7 questions is, tell me about the projects that you've been involved in the past. Long story short, their foundation was spending itself down because Thomas J. Long, who founded Long's Drugs, had put a lot of money in his foundation and died. And his children weren't interested in the foundation. They didn't want to have to deal with making gifts and vetting proposals and all of that. So they made the commitment to spend down this $90 million to end hunger in Contra Costa County in California. And Planting Justice was helping people plant food gardens in their lawn in West Oakland to help underserved, underappreciated communities grow food and meet their own needs. And so it was a great match. And it took several more conversations before I said, well, how much? He said, you should send us a proposal. I said, how much should we ask for? He said, ask for whatever you need. So we asked them for $1 million. And he said, well, we're not going to give you $1 million out of the gate because we don't know you, but how about $250,000 a year for the first 3 years, and then we can talk. That came out of being interested in him. And that's the way $10 contributions happen. It's the way $100 contributions happen. It's finding a match between what people really care about and what you have to offer. So I've set aside a time today, Wednesday, Thursday, and if we're having a good time, we're going to do a bonus session on Friday. I scheduled this as a 4-day series because I know Friday is the Friday of Labor Day weekend, and I didn't know that people would want to stick it through to a Friday, but we will offer a bonus session on Friday. And this extra session is an unabashed self-promotion for those who are interested to pay $97 to have a bonus session with me. It's called the VIP session, and I'll put the link up on the screen that you can go to, and I'll stick it in the chat also so that you can click on it in the chat. Let's see if this works. Where did we go? We went to a blank screen. Well, that's no good. How about if we go to a screen that you can see? Can you see that on your screen? Not yet. Let's try again. This is the new Martian greeting. Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you see it now? Nod your heads if you can see the links on the screen. Okay, great. And I'm going to see if I can copy that link for the challenge group. If you'd like to join me for an extra hour.
I think you have sent it several times.
Yes, I know. I'm so mercenary. So once you sign up for the VIP session, you'll receive the link to a different Zoom chat. You're still welcome to continue, of course, every morning, 9 o'clock for the next 3 mornings. 3 more mornings, and for the bonus session on Friday. But if you'd like to just have a less formal chat where I'm not presenting, but you can ask me your questions, and as the Balinese say, pull everything out of your teachers, you're welcome to do so. And tomorrow we'll talk about an introduction to the 7 questions. On Wednesday, you'll get your workbook on the 7 questions. And on Wednesday, we'll delve more deeply into what is the secret to asking for money and getting it. And I'll give you the hint now. The hint is don't. And we'll talk more about that on Wednesday. And then Thursday, we're going to wrap it up, and I'll give you some special insights about how to organize fundraising campaigns and activities. So before I release you on your own recognizance, any last questions for today? You are dear, sweet people. Oh, here comes Neil.
Well, yeah, I guess, and this will be my last time here, unfortunately, unless I could try to make it on Friday. But yeah, just the 2 major things, and I'm sure you'll cover it on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, is finding the right people, the people that care about what you care about. And then the second thing is having some authority that I think matters. But you're pretty charismatic, but I would say I'm not. So it's, I guess, the issue of authority, like degrees and history, to me, do make a difference. So more of a comment than a question, just to throw it out there. And I'm sure I will, unfortunately, not hear your more developed answers to those concerns.
Yeah, it's a wonderful opening, Neil, and thank you for that, because we will be talking about that a lot. I call it the endless chain of referrals. How do you get to the people who can really make a difference in your campaign? My old coach used to say, if the people that you're trying to reach are easy to reach, you're trying to reach the wrong people. And so how do we get to those people? My emphasis on relationships, on getting the relationship right, came out of a conversation I had with one of the richest Black men in America, David Stewart, who owns Worldwide Technologies in St. Louis. It's a privately owned company. He owns it, and it's $8 billion a year in sales. And through a series of coincidences, I flew with him on his private jet from St. Louis to Oakland, and we had 3 hours to talk. And that was what he said, he said, don't worry about the money. Worry about the relationships. If you get the relationships right, the money will follow. So that's a great place to end our first conversation. I look forward to seeing as many of you as we can tomorrow. Same link. You'll get lots of reminders. Trust me. I have this new wonderful system that sends out lots of reminders, and you're welcome to approach me directly if you want to set up a time to talk privately. Thank you all very much for joining us this morning, and I hope to see you tomorrow.